Welcome back to Mock Draft Madness, day 51 of doing a mock draft every single day until the NFL draft. We are so close, guys. We got a 2-round mock tomorrow, a 1-round mock on Tuesday, 3-round mock on Wednesday, and then one final 1-round mock in the morning on Thursday. That's usually when the information, if any, will come out about the draft. And then we're probably left in the dark until the rounds start. Today, what I'm going to try to do is I'm not going to do a predictive mock draft. I just kind of am going to go with what I think might happen on night one. So with that being said, I am going to go Caleb Williams to the Chicago Bears. Then I'm going to go Jaden Daniels, number 2, to the Washington Commanders. Now, the New England Patriots are a little bit tricky here because I could see them taking Drake May, or I could see them taking J.J. McCarthy. If they take J.J. McCarthy, what I think they will do is probably trade out with the Vikings and then try to trade up with the Los Angeles Chargers to make sure they get him. That's what I had them doing in the past. Today, what I'm going to do, though, is if they're not blown away with an offer, I do believe they will probably just select Drake May at number 3. Now, if that is the case, let's say they take J.J. McCarthy number 3. If Drake May is available at 4, the Cardinals and the Chargers will have so many teams calling their phone to try and get up to their spot so they can take Drake May. They are going to get a haul, even if it is the Giants only needing to move up 2 spots, which would be best for the Cardinals, who definitely want to take a wide receiver. So Marvin Harrison Jr. here at 4. At number 5, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, personally, I think they are more of a trade-out candidate, but with the way this is going, I do think they want to build that offensive line. I think I'm at a crossroads with the Chargers because I really do believe they want to build the offensive line, but I also do think that their wide receiver position is so barren that it's tough not to take one of the top guys here. And I do think if you look at the team, though, and you have Joe Alt sitting there, Joe Alt playing on the right side across from Rashawn Slater, you have amazing tackles. And if you look at what Jim Harbaugh has done, I know he hasn't taken, linemen super high, but when you have a guy like Joe Alt there and you compare him with Rashawn Slater, you are off to a great start with your head coaching tenure and your GM tenure, both first-year guys in this organization, and they're able to get those guys and really get a head start on what a lot of GMs inherit, usually pretty bad O-lines, and they got to rebuild all from the start, and obviously, you're not rebuilding completely from the start, but you do have, 2 cornerstone tackles. At number 6, we have the New York Giants. I do think they're probably going to take Malik Neighbors. He is my number 2 kind of rated receiver. I think he has a little bit more juice than Odunze. And now this leaves the Titans in an interesting spot, and I think they actually become prime trade-out candidates if Joe Alt is not there, because you have teams like the Vikings, the Broncos, and the Raiders all going to want to trade up for a guy like J.J. McCarthy. And I think, the Vikings have the most capital. Now, while this is not going to happen, while this is not super reliable because they're not accounting for the quarterback tax, I do think this would probably get the deal done. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to force that trade through. And the Vikings are now on the clock, and they are going to take J.J. McCarthy. For the sake of this mock draft, this would probably be the trade that's going to affect this round. I do think, though, that the Vikings could probably get back a late 4th or something like that, just to kind of offshoot the value. Number 8, to the Atlanta Falcons. I do think they're probably going to go edge here. I do like the idea of a Byron Murphy. Dallas Turner's been a guy. I did see today that Latu was their highest rated edge, so I don't know how much they weigh the medicals on there, but at the end of the day, it could really be any of the defensive line guys, and they would probably be getting the best player in the draft. Number 9, to the Chicago Bears, you're going to give them Rome Odunze. I think the Bears would take Brock Bowers here at 9. I just think that's if the top 3 receivers are off the board. I also think there's a potential that they trade back a little bit. At number 10 to the New York Jets, I do think that they could go offensive line, but I also think they're looking at skill positions and saying, Mike Williams, Brock Bowers, and Garrett Wilson, along with Breece Hall, would make for some pretty good playmakers, and I could see them wanting to give as much as they can to Aaron Rodgers. And this leaves the Tennessee Titans in a very interesting spot because I do believe they want to address the O-line, and they can do that with a Talisa Fuanga or a Troy Fautanu. I think Fautanu gives you more versatility because he can play all 5 spots. I think Fuanga has a higher ceiling at right tackle or even right guard. And honestly, either of these picks would be really great. You could also go left tackle in a Olu Fashanu. You know how I do think, Olu has his issues in the run game, but he can be a great pass blocker. I also wouldn't be completely out on J.C. Latham at this point. So maybe, what I'm going to do is I think I'm gonna go with Talisa Fuanga here. Get your right tackle. I think he's more likely to go earlier than Olu Fashanu. Number 12 to the Denver Broncos. I do think they need help at edge, so I am gonna give them Dallas Turner, who's available to them at 12. Number 13 to the Las Vegas Raiders. I've gone tackle for them quite a bit, but I'm gonna give them Terrion Arnold, one of the best corners in the draft. Looking at the Saints, they need to address their tackle issue. They need to address their O-line issue. And I think Troy Fautanu gives them the most versatility on that offensive line because of the fact that he can play all 5 positions, and you don't know the deal with Ramczyk. You don't know where Penning is going to be playing. You have a spot at guard that's open, and he could play all those positions. So while I think Olu would be good, I only see him playing left tackle. So you get more options with Fautanu. He may not have the higher ceiling, but at the end of the day, you have a very high floor with him. 15 to the Indianapolis Colts. I do think if they're in this spot, they could easily go Brian Thomas Jr. Just because, unless they want to move back, that's kind of where they're going to have to go get their guy. Now, I do think this puts the Seahawks in an interesting position because I'm looking at the Tennessee Titans here, and they have an opportunity to do something really, really crazy. I do like the idea of the Titans potentially trading up with the Seattle Seahawks and going and getting Olu. I don't know if they have the capital to get him because I forgot they traded their 3rd round pick to get L'Jarius Sneed. Like, they have a decent defense. So honestly, it's all about fixing that offensive line, and they can probably get a guy, at 23. I just think adding Olu and Fuanga would be a crazy addition. But if we look at the teams here, the only team, they would really just need to jump the Steelers because while I do see the Bengals taking a tackle, I think it would be more of a right tackle with the J.C. Latham. So I think we're good there. So at 16, I think the Seattle Seahawks, I think what I'm going to do is actually they do need safety help. So maybe taking a Cooper DeJean to play safety. He could also play corner. I mean, that defensive back room would be loaded at this point. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars desperately need to add a corner, so I'm going to give them Quinyon Mitchell, who is, to me, CB1B next to Terrion Arnold. 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. While I do think adding a tackle here would be great, adding a interior defensive lineman in Byron Murphy is an instant impact player for you. So number 19 to the Los Angeles Rams. I am now going to have the Tennessee Titans trade up. This is only 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. So I'm going to give them 23 and 38, and they'll give me 52 and 19. So we move up a decent amount. We move up 4 spots in the first round, but we drop back about 14 spots in the second. I think this is a fair trade. So I'm going to offer that trade through. And now the Titans are on the clock, and they have both of their franchise tackles for the next 10 years protecting Will Levis. So now you have Olu Fashanu, Peter Skoronski, Talisa Fuanga, and honestly, if you're a Titans fan and you're able to retain your second-round pick, I don't understand how you could be happier with your first round. I know you didn't get Alt, but instead you got 2 great tackles. At number 20 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do think that they could go J.C. Latham here, and I think that's probably what they'll do to pair him with Broderick Jones. They need the tackle position addressed. They need center addressed. They need wide receiver addressed. I do think J.C. Latham is probably the best player available for those needs. So, yeah, with that being said, I am going to give them J.C. Latham. Now, the Dolphins are an interesting team because I could see them adding a guy like Adonai Mitchell who ran a 4.33, and I could also see them adding interior O-linemen like a Grant Barton. I also could see them adding any of these defensive players. They have a lot of options that they can do here. I think the one that makes the most impact would be an interior offensive lineman. I do think Adonai Mitchell, because of his speed, would fit really well into that offense and gives you kind of something different than what you have with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, strictly because of the height he has. So we know how the Dolphins are. They're all about offense. So I'm going to give them Adonai Mitchell, a speed demon at 6'4", and he would fit right in because if we look at the Miami Dolphins depth chart, it kind of falls off a cliff after the top two. I mean, I think you have Braxton Berrios still there, but he's just not doing what Adonai Mitchell could do for them. 22 to the Philadelphia Eagles. While I do love the idea of adding a Jared Verse or a Jerzon Newton, I think they're a team that could also very well benefit from a guy like Nate Wiggins. I know I had him going there yesterday, but I just think with the value there at 22, it becomes kind of hard to pass up. He's a very good corner and could be a very good player in the league. 23 to the Los Angeles Rams. If we're looking at Jerzon Newton or Jared Verse, I think I'm leaning towards Newton because of the age, and I think losing that Aaron Donald on the interior is going to be a little bit bigger than people expect. Well, actually, people probably expect it to be a huge drop-off. I shouldn't say that. But, he can be a good player. He's a little bit undersized, so he's going to get that comparison if they do take him. But sitting here at 23, I think that is a great pick. With the Cowboys sitting here at 24, I think Graham Barton solves a lot of their issues because he can play all 5 positions, and they do have a spot at guard and tackle open. So I think with Graham Barton, he gives you a lot of versatility where you can put him in a place where, let's say you need a guard and a tackle, and there's better guards on the market right now than there are tackles or later in the draft. So it's like, okay, play Graham Barton at tackle, and then you can just find a guard. Like, he gives you that option, and I think he could be a great player for the Cowboys. 25 to the Green Bay Packers. They need, cornerback help. I do think, as much as they hate taking offensive linemen early, I do think Jackson Powers-Johnson could be a good addition for them. And they have 2 second-round picks, so there's no really reason to take a safety here. And I just think, while I do think you need defensive interior help, I think you can probably get guys later with those second-round picks. So for pure value, I think adding a guy like a Jackson Powers-Johnson can do really well for your line. You guys do a really good job of developing offensive linemen. So adding a talented guy like that, just his ceiling should rise. 26 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. While I do think, they would not pass up on Jared Verse, I would not be surprised if they moved back here, took a corner. I think adding Jared Verse to that line with Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey after losing Shaq Barrett would help them a ton. Amarius Mims to the Arizona Cardinals makes a lot of sense because, he's someone that needs to get some reps, and you have Jonah Williams, but there's also a chance that throughout the year he could beat out Jonah Williams for the starting spot. Jonah Williams, Amarius Mims, and Paris Johnson Jr. is a good tackle depth chart to have. 28 to the Buffalo Bills. They need wide receiver, but they have talked about the fact that they like the guys in their room. So I could also see them foregoing wide receiver right now and maybe adding, a tackle, or even adding, defensive interior help. They have one more pick, and it's pick 60, so they might want to move back here and take a defensive interior guy. So I'm trying to think if there's any people that would want to move into the first round here, where they can accumulate, a second-round pick where that would be a little bit more reasonable to take a guy there. So if I'm looking at the teams that need quarterbacks, obviously the Raiders strike me quite a bit, and they're sitting good at 44. So if I look here, and let's see if we can get a trade done. So the 49ers want to move up. the Colts want to move up, and the Bengals want to move up. So I don't know why. Let's see who's on the board. Let's see if any of these can make sense for the Bengals or the Colts. So with the Colts, okay, so this actually could make sense for the Colts. So we're going to trade back with the Colts here. 46 for 28. And then we'd probably have to give them 82. And maybe they can give us like 128. I mean, I think that's fair, right? Or maybe even 144. So let's force that trade through. Or we don't even need to force it. So the Colts are on the clock, and they are going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry. So now they solve their wide receiver issue. They get not depth. He could be a starting corner for you. You get 2 first-round talents at the positions you desperately need it, which kind of screws the Lions over, honestly. They desperately need corner help. And while I do think they could use a guy in Mike Sanders still, I think Brian Branch kind of plays that role a little bit. I do think they could add a guy like a Chop Robinson, so that's what I'm going to do because he's not making it there. 30 to the Baltimore Ravens. I think they could add a receiver. I do really like the idea of Keon Coleman, but I do also like the idea of Troy Franklin being there to be able to stretch the field. 31 to the San Francisco 49. I'm messing up my words today quite a bit. Tyler Guyton really makes a lot of sense to me. He's shown really high talent on his tape, and he'll be able to sit behind one of the best to ever do it in Trent Williams for a year and possibly replace Colt McKivitz at some point in the year. I know he's not your long-term answer. Tyler Guyton can be that. 32 to the Kansas City Chiefs. They need a wide receiver, and they are going to get there's a lot of good options here. While I really do like Ricky Pearsall, honestly. I like him a little bit over Ladd McConkey. If we look at his stats, it's not, I don't know. I like Ricky Pearsall better. He has better stats. Yes, that's an easy way out, but that's not what I was meaning to do. I was more just saying that like the way Ricky Pearsall plays and catches the ball is a lot more smooth to me than Ladd McConkey. I just think Ricky is like a better athlete. And while I do really like the idea of Keon Coleman. I went there yesterday. I think he becomes such a good answer for them because it's like he just is a big body receiver that they need. He can go up and get that. They have Rashee Rice. They have Travis Kelce. Give them a different type of option. 33 to the Carolina Panthers. They need wide receiver here. Chop Robinson is gone, so I don't really see any guys that are probably going to go. I do think they could probably get Pearsall at 39. So for that sake, what I'm going to do is I'm going to address the center position right here. They do need a center. I believe Austin Corbett moved from guard. So getting the top true center prospect in the class will do them wonders. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been You Don't Know Ball Mock Draft Madness Day 51. So close to the draft. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't know ball and want to know ball, be sure to subscribe. Leave a like. Let me know in the comments your favorite and least favorite pick from this mock draft, as well as any trade scenarios you want me to try for the last couple days. I know we're getting closer. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great rest of your night.